Oh, feeling great.
Have you been?
Okay, got it. All right. Yeah, no, feeling great. I went for a run yesterday with my Rocky Mountain Runner group, and
Nice.
was found out I wasn't quite refreshed yet, but I'm getting there. Yeah, doing good.
Good. Was that
Thanks for
the Monday night up Green Mountain run?
exactly,
Nice.
exactly.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Have you
must.
joined us before?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I used to run with them back in the early days of Rocky Mountain Runners. Gosh, I would say
Okay,
like 7 years ago. I ran with Ryan and
okay,
Silke
yeah,
quite often, and
nice.
it's been a long time though. I honestly I do most of my training by myself, so it's been a long time since I've ran with you guys. So I'm definitely
Uh,
definitely due to come back out and catch up.
Yeah, well, we'll come out. It's more of a Monday night social event than
Yeah,
anything. So, yeah,
absolutely. Well,
be
that's
great
what I
to have
liked
you.
about it for sure. Well, Paul, introduce yourself if you don't mind. Tell us who you are.
So I'm Paul Hooge. I live in Boulder, Colorado. I'm a emergency room nurse, amongst other things, and I like to take on adventures. So that's been most of my life for the several decades, or
Awesome.
at least the
Yeah.
last four.
Yeah. Um, it looks like you're off into the foothills right now. I think I know your neighbors. Rolf and is it Karen?
Yeah, Rolf and Karen moved
Rolf
up
and
here
Karen. Yeah.
a few years ago. They're great folks, and I guess that's partly how we got connected here. But
Yeah.
um, they're yeah, yeah, it's great. We got a great spot up here. We're just up here by Walker Ranch, and
Ah,
everyone's kind of spaced out. It's nice,
nice. Beautiful. Do you run at Walker Ranch quite often?
quite often. It's
Yeah.
great being right here. With the trails right outside your door.
Yeah.
You can't beat that, and just running down to Boulder
Yeah.
quite often, and running into friends and becomes a social thing too.
It really does.
It's great,
Yeah, it's a small world once you're in Boulder here. You're out on the trails and you always bump into somebody you know.
right?
Are you
Yeah,
originally
you got
from
to love that.
Boulder?
I'm not. I moved out here about 25 years ago.
Okay.
I was in California, and then I had prior to that Texas, but I basically kind of took on a big life change about 30 years ago, almost now, as the vice president of a couple banks, branches, and spent a lot of time in my early 20s working quite hard in the corporate ladder thing, had enough of it, and came out to the outdoor mecca of Boulder, and had a huge lifestyle change, and it was the best thing I ever did. I've been loving it
Nice.
ever since.
Yeah, yeah. What
Like a
inspired
lot of
that?
people.
What
Yeah.
inspired that for you?
Yeah. Well, I always had that in me, and I wanted a career, but kind of it just never left. So my brother was involved with the Park Service for a long time, and kind of got me into adventures early on, and so that kind of never left me, and it's always been a part of me. So
Okay.
it wasn't really uh, an inspiration so much as realizing who I was, and I got out here and just took off.
Yeah, yeah. What sort of adventures were you getting up to in the early days?
Early days, I did some biking across the country. I did
Mm,
did a lot of long distance hiking, primarily, that
okay.
sort of stuff,
Mm,
and kayaking.
yep.
Um, yeah,
Okay. So
and
you,
just kind of since then kind of taking those things to a new level.
yeah,
Yeah,
totally. Yeah. So you biked across the country?
yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Nice.
So that was great,
That's a life changer,
and
I'm guessing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
As a young guy,
for sure.
um, and yeah, a lot of biking on the California coast, and that sort of stuff. Used to do a lot of road biking, but came out here, got into mountain biking, got into the kind of expedition, kind of out there kayaking a lot more,
Okay.
mountaineering,
Yeah.
skiing, the usual boulder bit,
All of the above,
what
right?
everyone does, all the above. Yeah.
You still keep up with it
So,
all?
I do. I
Yeah.
do. So, my wife and I usually try to travel once a year somewhere pretty exotic, with the kayak and get out, on our own for a week or two in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
Do that. Do a lot of skiing and snowboarding
Yeah.
during the winter, and then a lot just love spending time in the mountains and in the rest of the time.
Yeah. Me too,
So
man. Me too.
yeah.
Um, well, your latest adventure was a rim to rim times 10. And or you could call it a rim to rim to rim times 5, I guess, however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
And I want to get into all that, but let's go back a little bit. So it sounds like, yeah, you're doing some long distance biking and mountaineering and skiing and hiking and just all that. How did you get into the crazy world of ultramarathon?
Had a doctor friend of mine who, early on, about, I guess this was maybe, gosh, going on 20 years ago now, was doing a lot of ultras, when it was not quite, as popular as it was now. He
Yeah.
did Badwater a few times,
Oh.
and just everything, and hard rock, and I paced him quite a bit and helped him out,
Ah,
with that, and never thought I really wanted to, kind of do that, but kind of got sucked into it like everybody does.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After you spend a little time out doing it, and
Yeah.
you know,
I feel like
I
pacing's
like the
like,
challenge.
I feel
Oh,
like
go ahead.
pacing's like the gateway drug, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
It's like once you
I
got
like
a little
more.
taste of it.
I love the challenge, but
Yeah.
just being out on the trails,
Yeah.
and like you, I do a lot by myself.
Yeah.
It's just really my meditative, therapy
Yeah.
that really keeps me going.
Yeah. Well, you're 58 years old, if I'm not mistaken. So how have you
Correct.
managed to stay healthy throughout all this? Like most ultra runners go hard for, 5, 10 years at the most, and then their body's all broken up, and then that's kind of it for them. They might do a little hiking or something, but how have you managed to keep it up all these years?
I think you do see a lot of that, and I find that unfortunate. I think, you know, I if I was a pro level athlete, I can see that happening. You have this opportunity to win things. You want to get out there and give it your all. But, to for that kind of longevity, you really need. It's important that you enjoy what you're doing, and I think, ultra running especially, it's tough. And if you don't enjoy it, if you don't enjoy being out there, and if you don't try not to take your workouts too seriously, if you
Mhm.
more look at it as I'm just going to go out and have fun on the trail.
Mhm.
I think that's important, both psychologically and for longevity, in anything.
Yeah. So 20 years ago or so, when you were getting into all this craziness, were you looking, years and years ahead, saying, I want to be able to do this for years? Or was there ever a time in your life where you thought, maybe I should try and get really fast and maybe win a couple of these races? Or what were your thoughts?
I've gone through. I'm a terrible trainer. I've gone through periods where I've, kind of tried to focus on things, but again, I kind of get back to that life balance. I know my limitations. I'm, never going to win anything, and it really, like most of us, it becomes, the challenge against yourself
Mhm.
more than anything, than
Mhm.
anyone else. And so, um, I think I've been able to keep it in perspective, even though I can't say I haven't gone out and trained and worked hard to get some fitness, but I've never taken it out of perspective of, who I am and what's important.
Yeah. So you've never like solely identified as I am Mr. Ultra Runner and this is going to be my big event for the year and everybody's going to know my name after this race, and
Yeah, no,
never gone down
no.
that route.
And I haven't, and even though, this Grand Canyon crossing, it's obviously going to draw some attention.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really my goal, at all. It's really just that personal adventure. I think, again, if you're doing this stuff, and you probably found out yourself, if you're doing this stuff for somebody else or to impress somebody else, or because you believe somebody will think you're great, then you're probably going to be kind of depressed and disappointed in the end, because I mean, there's people that care about this, but for the most part, nobody cares more than you and maybe your mom or something.
Yeah. No, 100%. I coach a few athletes and all mostly ultra runners, and they're all training for, different, everything from half marathon up to 100 miles. And that's one of the first questions I always ask them, like, what's your why? If it's to impress somebody, you're probably doing this for the wrong reasons. And, when I ask what your why is, I want you to put some thought into it, and it's a big question. And yeah, a lot of people are just, they want to check it off the bucket list, or they want to be that guy at work who did that big crazy thing. And
right.
Everybody's got different reasons though.
I think that's a great question. I think just in general to your audience, I think that's a question everybody should be asking themselves.
Yeah, everybody should.
Just keep it in perspective.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. One of the things,
how Boulder is as well, there's always somebody that's better, stronger, faster, smarter than you, so it's a great place to keep your ego in check. That's for sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No. When I first moved here, I moved here like probably 7, almost 8 years ago. And, this is probably a common story with a lot of people that moved to Boulder. Like, I felt like I was pretty fit. I had won a couple races in Wisconsin, and I came out here and wanted to be a mountain runner. And, shortly after I moved here, went out for a bike ride, and this older gentleman with white hair blew by me on the bike like I was still, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm in Boulder now. Like everybody's a multi-sport athlete, and it's just how it's going to be, I guess.
Yeah, I remember going up Bear Peak one day. That's the exact sort of thing when I first moved here, and this older guy just blasted past me. And I was like, geez, I should be able to keep up with this guy. Of course I couldn't, and I finally got to the top, and he was still there, hanging out. And that's the first time I met Buzz Burrell.
Ah, okay.
So, it was awesome.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I remember the first time I saw somebody running up a 14er, my mind was just blown. I'm like, how is that even possible? I can't, I can barely hike up these things. And, I just remember this guy running up, and he had trekking poles, and I just thought, man, that's a Greek god right there. It was always in my head. Like, I wonder if I could ever do that one day. But one of the things I wanted to ask you about is it looks like you did I'm guessing it was like a self-supported adventure at one point. You ran from Boulder all the way up to Long's Peak and back.
Yeah. Paul Pomeroy had initially done that, and but he took a mostly trail route, and I thought, well, I'm gonna try to set FKT with the most direct route, since that's kind of going to Long's Peak's a popular Boulder thing. Yeah. My wife did support me along the way on that. Yeah. And but that was a great, nice, fun little adventure.
Was that about 100 miles?
And, comes out to about 90.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you run the roads back and forth?
I did mostly, gravel roads, and then the paved roads, the most direct way. Went up through Jamestown and peak to peak, and until you hit the Long's Peak Trail.
Got it. I got to ask, well, it's funny because I was just thinking about this adventure and thought, I wonder if maybe I should do that. I'm looking for like kind of a 24, 30, 35 hour type self-supported adventure to do this summer. And that crossed my mind. So I got to ask you how long it took you.
Yeah. So my time on there is a little over 23 hours.
Oh, wow.
I think it's like 23 hours, 17 minutes or something like that.
That's
yeah. So, yeah, it's good. I got a little frozen on top of longs, but kind of a little storm came in and some hail and stuff, but got up and tagged it and head back down. But yeah, I think it's a great natural adventure from Boulder. I mean, it's long peaks with the long approach.
Yeah. No, I've done the longs duathlon a few times, and that's one of my favorite sort of training days before, like a month before a big race. But now my interest is peaked, so I might have to hit that up at some point. Did you take the standard keyhole route, or did you go up the North Face?
I did on that one. I took the keyhole. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
The North Face is a nice route, though.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. It's sporty, right? You get to do a little bit of scrambling. Yeah. It's pretty fun. Does your wife support you on a lot of this stuff? Does she come out to races?
She has. She's always, definitely always from a emotional standpoint. She's always checking things off for me, and she's helped me at a ton of races and stuff too. Some things I decide I just want to go out and do on my own. Yeah. But she's always there.
Nice.
Hounding me, making sure I have, certain things. And I've had a couple of ventures that, have kind of been scary for her. So I was climbing during the winter up Mount Lindsay and had a bad accident where I had a boulder come off, a cliff broke. Oof. And it struck me on the side, my leg kind of tore my thigh open, and I had a little hairline fractures in my pelvis, but I couldn't walk. Wow. So, and I was out there in the winter. So
by yourself?
I tied my ice axes together and basically kind of crawled for 9 hours back to the car, but I made it back just fine. It's a little dicey. And I was in crutches for a few months from that, but I ended up recovering from that. But the reason I brought that up is now she makes me carry a spot everywhere I go or in reach. She wants to know where I'm at after that. But
well, that's a smart move, carrying one of those things just in case.
It really is when you're doing things on your own. I mean, you don't have to go far off trail before nobody's going to find you if something bad happens. So yeah.
Refresh my memory. Is Lindsay out by there's a few other peaks out there, right? Is that in the Sangre de Cristo?
Yeah, it is in the Sangre de Cristo, and there's Little Bear and
Bear,
and Wetterhorn, and
that's right.
Is it Wetterhorn? No, and I'm trying to think of the other one's name next to Little Bear, but yeah, it's in that group. Okay. Down south.
Well, so that must have been quite the crawl out of there, because that's a really gnarly road that most cars can't get up to. So I'm guessing that must have been miles and miles of crawling or limping.
Yeah, it was only, it was during the winter, and I was doing this kind of mixed ice rock route, and it was only about 5 miles to my car. But crawling is not very fast. Again, it took me about 9 hours.
Were you literally
to crawl
crawling?
there? Yeah, I mean, I would try to get up, and I would take a couple steps, and then I'd fall down, in pain. I mean, I really couldn't bear any weight, and I was trying to bear weight on my ice axes and try to keep going. So it was kind of a limp fall crawl, 9 hours, and I didn't know how. I'd wrap my leg up, so I stopped the bleeding and stuff, but I didn't know how bad honestly, I mean, on that one, I wasn't 100% sure I was going to make it,
Yeah.
but I knew that, I think that's where that ultra running really comes in handy, because I knew that, like, I needed to make constant forward progress, that just lying there wasn't an option.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just far too cold out to, I had a sleeping bag, because those kind of ventures I always bring enough to, like, try to survive the night, but it would have been dicey. So yeah, that kind of constant forward motion, just knowing, okay, as long as I'm, getting a foot closer, I'm that much closer. And I was able to, get in my car and then drive myself into the ER.
Yikes.
So
Was that a pretty scary moment? I mean, you said you weren't sure if you were going to make it. I mean, it's wintertime out there, crawling through it sounds horrible.
I've done these old survival lectures with different groups, because it's kind of it's an interest of mine. I've spent a lot of time doing things in the outdoors. So, I at that time, it's a little scary, but try to focus on, keeping things calm, looking around at what resources I have, and mostly, I mean, a lot of people just die by panicking and doing stupid things, and getting frustrated, and just focusing on what my goals were, what my resources are, and just fixating, on that goal, making some realistic plans. So
Yeah.
it worked out pretty good. I try to. I've been in a few situations like that. Actually, in this talk, I have about 10 examples that I use of kind of bad situations that I've been in over the years, and each one really, it does get down to just staying calm and sorting out what your best next move is.
Yeah. 10 examples. I mean, that's quite a few examples there, Paul. Like, I've definitely had a few moments where I'm like, okay, this could be it. Like, I'm either going to be sleeping out here, or I got to figure something out, or else I got to move fast, or, whatever the case is. But, wow, 10 of them. I think I've had 3 or 4, like, pretty scary gut checks, but, was that your scariest one coming off of Lindsay?
It was one of them. I mean, I was out of water for 3 days in a dry climate that I wasn't sure I was going to get out of.
3 days.
Once. Yeah.
Where was that?
That was pretty scary. That was in Big Basin in California, and there was a drought going on at the time, and I was kind of young and stupid, and I kind of got myself deep into there, and all the water sources that I had planned out were not there.
They were dry.
And so I eventually managed to find a road and get out of there. To an ultra runner now, when I look back at it, it's like it wasn't that far, but I think it was probably like 30 miles from anything, but it took a while.
Did you run back then?
No, I was more like hiking and
more
stuff.
Hiking, yeah.
Young kid, yeah. I had some adventures in Alaska kayaking where I've had to swim across some cold water, where I got separated from kayak and stuff. That was pretty dicey if I didn't make it. Just some general scary things. But,
wow. Unreal.
Just enough reminders how quickly things can change.
Yeah.
If any of us that have been out there a while knows, and fortunately, I'm a little smarter now with things overall. But just reading about this horrific ultra race in China, over the last week. Where they said 21 people may have died. I that's always been it's a big part of my talk. It's always been what I'm really concerned about is exposure. Exposure is just one of the most dangerous things. People get out in the winter here and, I'm just going to go on a 10-mile run, which is nothing for an ultra runner, and a storm blows in, they don't know where they're at. It's just an easy way to die. So um, that's something we're careful about.
Yeah. So what kind of tips do you give people? Carry a spot or in reach?
Yeah, that's actually one of them.
Yeah.
It's interesting. My talk goes around. I don't know if you've heard of the 10 essentials.
I don't know that I have.
Uh,
I mean, I'm
so
sure I
it's
have at some
kind of
point.
it's kind of the Boy Scout thing, and the national park will publish it. It's in a lot of like basic hiker manuals. It's the 10 essentials that you should bring, which like fire and a map and food and stuff. And I kind of go through those and show how they're really mostly useless, most of them, and the kind of important things to bring, and really, the number one thing, to bring when you're out and doing things is knowledge.
Yeah.
Is understanding your environment, understanding what your limits are, understanding what the basic things are, to survive. Because it really, the thing I never liked about that 10 essentials is that it gives you some idea that the things you bring are going to save you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. It's you. It's how smart you are.
That's true.
And then one of the more important things is just staying calm, and using your resources. So that's it's just a different take on that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you prefer running ultramarathon races or getting out on sort of solo expeditions?
I prefer getting out on my own,
Yeah.
but I really appreciate the whole environment of races, and being out there with friends, and competing, and kind of seeing how you can do against others. So I do races every year. It's a good way to kind of measure myself, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
and to have that social aspect of it. But really, getting out on my own,
Yeah.
on adventures that I've kind of thought of, is a lot more my passion.
Yeah. What are some of your big adventures that, when looking back, you're, pretty proud of?
Yeah, gosh. Well, I've done a lot. I've made about 20 trips to Alaska,
Oh,
and done a lot of kayaking out there, backpacking stuff. We've done a lot of pretty high level kayaking around the world, where we've chartered a plane and gone into places. We've kayaked, like open ocean kayaking down from like Belize down to Honduras,
no kidding.
we've done like a couple 100-mile route, just east of Cuba, along the Exumas, and that. So those are a lot of fun.
Wow.
A lot of long distance hiking and backpacking. I've done a lot of the trails, John Muir Trail, and I haven't actually done like the Appalachian and the Pacific Crest like in its entirety, but I've done many sections of them, and yeah. So and some biking adventures. I biked the Colorado Trail and that sort of thing. So
Cool.
yeah.
What do you do when you're not outside on all these adventures? I think you mentioned you still have a full-time job, but what are some other hobbies or interests of yours?
Yeah, so I do work as an emergency room nurse, which is great. So I love it. My wife and I travel a lot. We spend about 100 nights a year in our van,
Oh, cool.
and just going around and adventuring to different places, kind of boondocking out. So we'll do a lot of hiking and biking and that sort of things. But we like to spend time in the van. Then we usually try to get out of the country a couple times a year on some sort of adventure. And of course, not happening the last couple of years, but with COVID. But otherwise, yeah, we like to travel, and just living the dream in Boulder.
Yeah.
And getting out there mostly. So
Sounds like
yeah,
it.
most of our activities are around outdoor,
Got it. Yeah.
adventures. So
For sure. Yeah. Working in an emergency room, I'm guessing you've got a lot of stories there too. I'm sure you've seen a lot of gnarly stuff.
Oh yeah, it's a good place to, one, kind of get experience with emergencies,
Hmm.
in the outdoors, and um, it's a good place to appreciate what you have, because you see a lot of people with very unfortunate, conditions and situations.
Hmm.
I don't. It's hardly a day I don't go home from work and grateful
Really?
that I'm not that guy that got cancer, or this person that had a heart attack, or for over the last year, you know, somebody that just walks in and they're dead from COVID,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm. Yeah.
pretty soon. So
Yeah. Is that your biggest takeaway from working that job, is just being thankful for your own health?
it really is. I mean,
Yeah.
being grateful for what I have. It is, though, tremendously satisfying to be able to help people
Hmm.
in need, and mean that in the most honest way. I really enjoy, when people are in a situation, and you're there to help them. It's a very satisfying career in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah. When it all boils down, that's what it's all about, is just like service to others, right? That's what is satisfying. It seems to me,
Yeah,
when you take everything else away, just being able to help other people is what brings real, genuine satisfaction.
it's great to be able to do that and get paid for it.
Yeah.
At the same time, is a great combination. I have no regrets.
Yeah,
I'll
for
probably do
sure.
it for maybe 5 more years, because we got a lot of big plans. But
Nice.
I've been very happy with that career.
Cool. Well, Paul, you're about 12-ish years older than me, I think. And I mean, you look like a healthy guy. So like, if I want to be Paul when I'm 58 years old, like, what do I do? I mean, do you eat healthy, and how else do you take care of yourself?
Yeah, I think so the keys to longevity, who knows? I got partly lucky. I probably got some decent genes, but I I think I don't spend a lot of time worrying about anything too much when it comes to my diet or my exercise or what I'm doing. I try to just, be relaxed about it. I try to eat well,
Mhm.
but I don't fixate on it. If I want that dessert or whatever, or that the other beer,
Mhm.
I do it.
Yeah.
And same way with just getting out, just really, yeah. What's great about ultra running, and our Rocky Mountain runners, our group motto is that this isn't training, this is living.
Hmm.
And what's really great, when you really love something, and you love getting out in the environment and stuff, it doesn't feel like training. You just get out and enjoy yourself. And I think, for anybody who can find that sort of exercise in their life, that it is just a joy to them, that you're going to have a good long life, that you're going to
Hmm.
be healthy.
Yeah.
Um, and then I try not to have too many bad habits,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
all that. But I think attitude's a big part of it.
Yeah.
Just
It
staying
really is.
happy, and
Yeah.
taking care of yourself. I look at that on long runs too. It's when I'm doing something difficult, like the rim to rim to rim 5 times. I try to focus on three elements. One is trying to get as fit as I can before. But I feel like fitness is only like a third of it. Where if you talk to most people that don't do these things, they probably, in their head, it's 90% fitness. But yeah, you need to be fit to do it. But I think it's only about a third. I think the other third is your head,
Yeah.
is your psychology going into it. What's your emotional state? How are you processing what's happening. Are you keeping a positive attitude? Are you, remembering how fortunate you are to be the kind of person that can do this kind of thing? And then the other third is the same sort of thing, is taking care of yourself. Are you doing the right things to take care of yourself? Are you eating right? Are you drinking right? Are you taking care of those foot problems early? Are you, doing all the paying attention to your body and yourself? Because you see so many people who are very fit and they might even have the best mental state, but they get into a race and they get so excited they forget to eat, drink, or take care of themselves, and they don't do well.
For sure. Did you ramp up your training before this Grand Canyon adventure? Like, is it something you had your eyes on for quite a while, and you wanted to go out and set this FKT, or how were you looking at this thing?
I decided to do it about 6 months ago.
Okay.
And I had applied with a fantastic group of people for team for the Eco Challenge Patagonia.
Oh.
And it was a team of doctors and nurses that were frontline healthcare workers, and just really strong athletes. And so we felt like we had a really good chance to get in. And because of COVID and all that, and I guess there was some sort of who knows, contract dispute or something, it was potentially going to it's gotten put off for now, so we don't know where it's at. But I had that mindset. We had applied to it, and I had that mindset that I was going to do that. So as that we found that was getting canceled, I wanted to get out and do an adventure where I could sleep deprive myself for a while, and have to kind of force myself to keep going. And so I was just looking at different things for that, and this kind of came up, and I thought, well, this fits the bill. So I kind of changed my training from running to doing a lot more. There was 58,000 feet involved in finishing this, and so and it a lot of kind of step ups. It's very steppy climbing. So a little bit different than those graded trails. And so I kind of changed my training to do more walking, more fast walking, kind of trotting, and then a lot of climbing. I did like a Everesting on my treadmill. I did 30,000 feet on the treadmill one day in like 14 hours, and
wow.
and that sort of stuff during a bad day. So so just getting out there, trying to do a lot of vert, and some long days out, So to be more specific for this, because this is not the kind of thing, when you look at these long records, the John Muir Trail or anything that's over 200 miles, it involves a lot of walking, as much as we like to talk about running.
Right.
The people that win it, I mean, people that have set records on so many trails have walked 90% of it.
Yep. Before this, what was the furthest distance you had done? I mean, I know you've got a few hundred milers under your belt. Had you ever done a 200 miler?
Not like as a race, but I went out and did several things where I've gone out and done that distance, but at like a 50-mile a day rate. Okay. So not as like a 200-mile race. I hadn't done a 200-mile race, but like, I did like the Tahoe Rim Trail. We did a 200-mile version of that.
Okay. And
really did it. My intention there was to do it within the race times, but looking at it, we go as fast as we could for the 50 miles, and then we'd slip into a town. I had it all mapped out, get a hotel, get a beer, pizza, whatever. We'd have like 6 maybe 8 hours, and then and get some rest, and then go out and hit the next day,
Okay.
hard.
Yeah.
But a lot of ventures. I mean, year before last, I went up, did the Wonderland Trail
Yep.
in kind of one shot. That was like 33 hours. But yeah, mostly the longer distance stuff I've done. I've worked in sleep breaks into that. I think there becomes a point where you have diminishing benefits trying to run through these things. I mean, some people are able to run 200 miles. If you aren't super fast, by the time you're up for over 48 hours, you're potentially going to be going so slow or have such diminished benefits from keeping moving that you're better off trying to get a little nap in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's kind of how I approached this Grand Canyon thing. I looked at it more like, I'm going to just evenly pace myself through this thing.
okay.
I'm going to try to get a little rest every day, and a little break. And instead of just trying to push through the first 100 miles and then just turn into a wreck, and then end up having to stumble through the rest and take more time. So
yeah,
it worked out for me.
do you feel like that was the smart way to go for you? I mean, do you feel like you could have gone faster if maybe you skipped one of those sleep breaks and pushed on a little bit further?
Yeah, I think I could definitely do it faster.
Okay.
If I wanted to be more miserable. I felt, I'd say I think probably when you look at the stories of the fellows that did the 3-time crossing and the 4-time crossing, I think they actually dealt with a greater degree of misery.
Yeah.
But Christophe Touchard did the 4-time, had an amazing time.
Okay.
On that. So I think I could have pushed farther. It was hard. I pushed myself as much as I wanted to at that time.
Yeah.
If I had some need to really have to go faster, it's certainly beatable.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
this stuff is all arbitrary anyways. Like,
Yeah.
there's no point to any of it. We're just setting goals for ourselves and going out to challenge ourselves.
Exactly.
So
exactly. And there were plenty of times. I mean, I was out there to 16, 18 hours a day, for 5 days. It was painful enough.
For sure.
But, yeah.
So did you have like two different cars set up on each rim, or did you just have your van at the one spot, or how did you approach this?
Yeah, so I just have my van on the north rim.
Okay.
And I set this up because the classic route is doing the South Kaibab Trail.
Mm-hmm.
It's shorter than the Bright Angel,
Right.
So all the FKTs are set on that, and there's no parking on the south rim there anymore. There hasn't been for the last few years. So to have like a home base, I wanted to really do this on my own without any help, but to have a home base on the south rim mean you'd have to take a bus over to a campground or whatnot. So I positioned myself on the north rim, which is about a mile from the trailhead, a little less than a mile from the trailhead, which worked out fine. So I take off from that, do the whole rim to rim to rim, just get up on the south rim, tag it, get some water, and head back down. And then when I got back to the van, I'd refresh myself, change clothes, clean up, eat a quick meal, and sleep for a few hours.
Okay. On average, how much were you sleeping?
On average, I got about 3 hours. I'd push for 4, but I wouldn't always be able to get, to sleep, or I was working on something else, just some issue I had, but so on average about 3, maybe 3.5.
Okay.
So I'd say 3 to 4.
Okay.
Which was great. it was enough. And that was another thing. I was just kind of testing that level of sleep for that many days, what my mental state would be. And it turned out that I'm a kind of person who enjoys a full night's sleep. And but it turns out it was enough to keep me focused and not psychologically down, and keep me from being overly sleepy.
Okay.
Yeah, I did all my I left at night, usually around 8 to 10 p.m.
Really?
At night. And
Okay.
yeah, so I did most of my running at night, which was important. It was it was getting pretty hot down in
Okay.
the canyon. This is not the best time
Mm-hmm.
to do this kind of thing, late May, but it was actually, I did it because it's the first time the campground opened up, and I just snagged a spot, right away. So that was the time I had. I knew it would be a bit hot. But so I'd leave at night, and it ended up working out great, because I'd end up tagging the south rim as the sun was coming up. And then it was just a quick run down to back down to Phantom.
Yep.
And then it started getting hot pretty quick there. And I had some hot walks up to Cottonwood, which is like halfway up, to the north rim. But I only had to endure some heat then. It was probably the hottest day. It was like 110 in the box, they said. And but generally it'd be around 100 and below. And it was actually, the temperature extremes were pretty impressive. The ranger told me on one night that I left that they had measured 17 degrees in a field on the north rim.
Wow.
So you're talking about a huge, so it's this constant, I brought a lot of warm clothes and like bigger mittens and like a down jacket and stuff, because I need it, when I took off. Plus, if you get, if something happens and you're stuck out there at night and you're high up, you don't want to get have exposure. So I brought enough to be safe, so I could get through a night. But you're peeling all that stuff off, and hot as hell by the middle of the day. And
Totally.
Were
all the water sources turned on down in the canyon?
They were. So the water is easy there now. It's been like that for a while. So I've done about a dozen rim to rims before I did this. Over the last, I guess 30. But yeah, water is never. And if you're moving pretty quick, it's easy. So I was able to do the whole thing with 2 bottles, and mostly just a ham bottle. So, because you've got water. The biggest stretches that you don't have water are like 7 miles. And now they didn't used to have a water source on the south rim,
right
there,
right
at the trailhead. So they've got that now. That really helped with my plans, because without water there, it would have been complicated. But I had to bring a lot more.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, water was easy. You just got to make sure you fill up, and I put one in my stomach and take off. I really I didn't stop much at all. I just kind of blow in and fill up my bottle and drink one and fill it up again and take off. I didn't really break anytime during the day, except on my way back through Phantom. I'd come back through and I'd get one of their lemonades.
Oh, nice. I was going to ask you.
I'd go through a couple of those, and it worked out. It was just my regular schedule. So I'd sit down for 5-10 minutes, regroup, and keep moving.
Was there a lot of people down at Phantom Ranch this time of year?
Yeah, it got, it was actually pretty good till the weekend hit. And Friday, and particularly Saturday, was just insane. I've never seen it like that on Saturday. And I would suggest any rim to rim runners, who are thinking about going down, don't even consider going down on a Saturday. You know, you're going to be in a conga line trying to pass people. It's just far too busy to enjoy it. It's just not worth it. You know, take a day off or whatever, you know, figure it out. But Sunday's a lot better, but Friday's pretty bad too.
Okay.
But there were, I was just blown away. I think on the busiest it was when I went from Phantom to the North Rim one day. I bet I passed as much as 300 people.
Whoa.
It's that bad.
No kidding.
Yeah. And people coming down. It's not a lot of, you know, hikers with their poles and stuff. And it looked like they didn't, it may have been the first time they used them.
Yep.
For a lot of them. They're
For
going
sure.
down to Phantom. So they have this real wide track where they put their poles out to the side, and like you can't get around them, you know. I mean, it's difficult. It's just if you're running, it's just no fun.
Yeah.
So if you don't get stabbed,
Which, you know, that slows you down some too. If you're aiming for a quick time, you know, that's going to slow you down a little bit too.
yeah. I think they were coming the other way that day. I was coming down because I start early, so it worked out a little bit. But you definitely pass all the hikers.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of passing going on, and some of it's kind of tight on that trail. You know, about half of it is you don't want to take a step off of it because you know you're probably not going to live.
Right.
On half of it.
Yeah.
So,
Were you like taking pictures or anything while you were out there, or were you just on a mission and just charging?
you know, I don't know if other people do this, but yeah, I always have this idea. Like I had these great books on tape and some music, and I'm just going to enjoy myself. And then I always do this in a race. I always prepare for it, but then I just somehow I'm like fixated on the race, and I can't pull any of that out, or I don't have the energy or the psychological will to sit and listen to anything. And this, I thought for sure I would do it on this, but I really, this whole time, I think I listened to an hour of music on one climb. I mean, the whole time I was just in my own head and thinking about, you know, what am I going to eat next? When do I need to drink? What do I, you know, how my feet feel, you know, what's coming up, you know, can I do this? You know, there's a lot of little psychological things that go on too, and this sort of thing, because you're coming back to the start every time. And it's very easy to just quit. And when you go across, if you've done, and the other guys that have done multiple crossings say the same thing. I mean, it's not like when you finish your first one, if you think about when you've done rim to rim to rim, if you like consider turning around and doing it again, it's not too exciting prospect for most people. And so, I mean, like, it's not like I wasn't pretty beat after the first, you know, rim to rim to rim, you know, and it's more just trying to fool yourself into thinking it's not that bad and you can just head down and, you know, to Phantom and do it again, you know, oh, it'll be downhill from here. You'll be okay, you know, and just trying to do that day after day. It was a little easier as it went on, but those first couple laps were like, seriously, why am I doing this? This is idiotic, you know?
For sure. No, I've done the rim to rim to rim just a couple times, but I've never really, you know, thought about going back and doing it again. Now, are you the first person to ever do this 5 times?
Yeah, as far as, you know,
that we know
fastest knows times that anyone knows of.
Okay. Yeah.
So
and somebody had done it 4 times, and you're the first one to do it 5.
Right.
No kidding.
So yeah, somebody else will come along, you know, and and probably do it 10 times. Who knows? But
sure. Yeah.
But, you know, it's nice to put that place marker in.
Absolutely.
You know, especially at, you know, at my age, you know, I'm 58, and you know, it's the kind of adventures you can have are, you know, I'm limited in what I'm going to be doing, you know, before too long. So I want to get things in, you know, and do what I can do now. And so, you know, it feels good to be able to do this sort of thing at my age.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Now, how did this idea come to you? You said you'd done the rim to rim to rim, like a dozen times before. Had this been brewing in your head for quite a while, or were you just stumbling around on the FKT site and thought, man, I can one up this? Or
Yeah, I had, part of all that, but I was also looking for a long adventure that I could support myself on. That, so I was kind of looking at things where I could get out and do a hard day and make it back to my van.
okay.
And in case I, had some problems, in case I need to have wardrobe changes or, just anything, and then just recoup a little bit and go out and do it again. So I was looking for more of that sort of thing rather than, just a one long trail thing.
Okay. Yeah, it fits the
where I
bill.
carried everything, which I enjoy those events too, but
Yeah.
this seemed to fit the bill for all that. So
Yeah.
it was stupid enough,
But
Yeah.
there's a certain amount of comfort involved with, I can get back to my van tonight and at least sleep for a few hours, cook a quick meal, and then go back out. That's
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So that that definitely gave me a little bit of a goal every day. So, it wasn't just this constant misery that I was going to, walk as far as I could and then just throw my stuff down on the side of the trail and try to nap for an hour and move on. I knew I could, change into something fresh and feel a little bit better about the day. But of course that also, makes it more difficult because I'm feeling awfully good lying in the van, after a full, meal of spaghetti and stuff. And it's harder to get out and do it again,
Yeah. Were there any moments of doubt or moments where you were like, okay, this is stupid. Like 3 times is more than enough. I'm just going to call it a day.
Yeah, there was a lot of that, even mostly again at the beginning, the first couple laps, it's just like stupid. Oh, I could do this, but why, bother through this? There's a lot of that you go through. I think part of it, a lot of people do these things and don't tell anybody,
True.
and because, for different reasons. Maybe they just don't care if anyone knows. Maybe they don't want that kind of stress, or they don't want perceived embarrassment or something if they don't complete it. This sort of thing. I guess the rim to rim, they on the FKT sites, one of the trails that they want you to announce ahead of time and put your tracker up and whatnot, so I was kind of destined to have to let people know. So I let everybody know, and doing that did actually, I think, help in the sense that, I try not to let my ego get too much of me, but there is that thing where like, wow, you announce this big thing and then you're going to, come back as this like idiot who did one lap,
Right.
and whatnot. So there's a little bit of that in the back of your head, like, you at least deserve, or you at least, people deserve you to at least suffer a bit. So you're going to have to go out and do it again. And then by the time, get a few laps, you're like, oh, wait, I'm only one more lap from my victory lap. I can do this.
So aside from the FKT website, did you come out on like Facebook and sort of announce this thing beforehand?
I did.
Okay.
I let people,
Oh,
that was pretty much the extent of it, the FKT site and, my whatever.
Yeah. But the pressure's on then
quote
people are
friends on
watching.
Facebook and yeah. And I've got a lot of, the Rocky Mountain Runners, we have a couple hundred of just awesome people that, are super supportive.
Yep.
And it's great when you let them know you're doing something, you are putting it out there. So
I'm trying to remember. Is there much phone service in the canyon?
So there's really none in the canyon.
Okay.
There is a bit of service on the rim.
Okay.
So you can calls and message.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I was just able to message, but if on the rims, I was able to do that in certain spots, but nothing in the canyon.
Nothing in the canyon. And were you able to
Yeah,
check in with
at
people
least not for me.
from your van? Did you have reception where you could check in with people?
I was able to get an occasional message through.
Okay.
So I was able to do the messages, but most of I messaged my wife and a friend
Mm-hmm.
to mostly when I was hitting the rims.
Yeah.
Closer to the rims where you got the best signal.
Yeah. For sure.
So the campground, a little bit of messaging, but
okay.
yeah, not much. And I really didn't. I wasn't feeling too social, so I really didn't spend much time. I kind of had everything mapped out, even though I took decent breaks. It was very regimented. It's like, okay, you're going to shovel this food down, you're going to wash this off, you're going to change this, you're going to crawl into bed,
Yep. Yep.
and do this real quick so I could minimize my time as much as possible.
Yeah.
And still get the most out of it. What's nice about taking the few hours sleep break in between is which I think is a huge advantage too on something long, is that I could eat a real meal when I got in and have it digest it, while I was resting, and which is hard to do if you're moving all day. It's just hard to get real food down for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
Some people do fine with it. So that was a chance, a little break for my stomach to take it in, and it worked out good because then I wasn't surviving on trail food, which gets old really quick.
It does. Yeah.
Goose and. In fact, towards the end, I was like, I started with a lot of just like trail mix and gummy bears and goose and things that are easily digestible. But towards the end, it was like I was just craving salami and cheeses and breads and things, real food. Okay. So
yeah,
that was great.
What day did you start this adventure on?
I started it on I think it was the 20th at midnight.
And what day of the week was that?
On I think a Thursday morning.
Thursday morning. Okay.
Yeah.
And you started at midnight.
Yeah.
Why? What was the what was the thought behind that?
My initial plan, I'd planned it out to I wanted to make I wanted to be survivable, but I also wanted to try to lay down a decent time.
Yep.
So I wanted to try to lay down a competitive time. So my initial goal was to do it in under 4 days, 3 days and something.
Okay.
And my plan, just with the weather the way it was going to be, was going to start at midnight, and I was going to ratchet it back 4 hours every day. So I was going to go then from midnight to 8, then I was going to have a 4 o'clock leaving, and then I was going to leave at noon. And I had worked that out where there was really only, it's kind of the last day was going to really put me in a bad heat situation.
Okay.
Because if you're doing this 24 hours, eventually you're going to run into, you can't run from the heat all the time. You're going to run across it.
Got it.
But as the laps went, the first lap was just a little over, a second lap more so. As the laps went, I was only able to cut back like 4 hours total on that 24-hour cycle.
Okay.
So that just ended up me leaving.
Sure.
Evening. Yeah. Probably the perfect time to leave in that situation is like 4 p.m. because it'd be like 8 before you got down to Phantom. And so things would be cooling off, the sun would be down, and then you'd have the whole night to get up there and back through and halfway up to the rim.
Yeah.
So.
But starting
The
at
night was important.
yeah, that makes sense. But starting at midnight, it seems like that's like the end of the day where you're not starting fresh or well rested. Or were you able to get a lot of sleep before you started at midnight that night?
I didn't do great. I usually, like most people for long races, 100 milers and stuff, you like to get a good, long sleep in if you can. I didn't do great because of the way my schedule was. Uh, but I got like 7 hours, which was fine,
Okay.
the night before. And I work nights
Ah,
in the
okay.
emergency room.
Okay.
So I'm very comfortable being up at night.
Gotcha.
And that helped a lot.
Yeah.
And running at night, I mean, the visibility is a little worse. You got to be a little bit more careful, especially with some of those drops off the North Rim, to start with. But there's I would run into virtually nobody. And occasionally what I'd see is like some late hikers coming up, throwing up or crawling up the last, couple miles of the North Rim, and I try to encourage them. I stopped for a couple of them and tried to help them ways I could, but you see some of that. But other than that, I see nobody. And it's just me and the animals out at night, a lot of bats. That's one thing, it's running at night. There's just a ton of bats shooting in front of your face. That gets a little unnerving on occasion. But it's really, really peaceful out there. Perfect temperature. It would be like, 40s generally for a good part of the night. And so yeah, that worked out great.
Yeah.
Then mostly, important thing is you get up the South Kaibab. I mean, that's really the killer when it comes to heat is I mean, Phantom's pretty bad too, but if you're climbing that in the heat of the day, you're going to pay the price.
Yeah,
for sure.
Was there people out there, well, probably rangers more than anything, but were you stirring up conversation out there? Did people know what you were doing?
Yeah. So, I started it thinking, oh, I'll probably kind of run under the radar, and people, if you've been out there before, there's a lot of conversation like, oh, where'd you come from? Or especially if I'm showing up and it kind of looks like I didn't just start, or I'm going up the South Rim and everyone's coming down. It's like, oh, this guy's doing something weird. And at first I'm like, I'm just headed up to the South Rim or whatever. But after a while, especially the ultra runners would come by and they're like, what are you doing? Why are you out here this late? When you start, I started telling, what I was up to. And that got around fast. It's amazing how quickly in the canyon, especially when you're there for 5 days, and all the people that are, doing multi-day stuff or in the canyon and whatnot. So it was a matter of time where I end up being that guy. Okay. And it was really cool though. People were super nice. I mean, the ultra runners are always really nice, and the hikers were great too. The rangers were awesome. They knew about me pretty early on.
Okay.
And there's one ranger in particular, Della, who has been in the park for like 20 years, who's just super sweet. And she's like, now if you get in any trouble, my cabin's over at Cottonwood, and you knock on the door at night. Oh, wow. Anything, even if you just want something to eat, you knock on the door at night, I'll be there and stuff.
Nice.
And I saw her probably 8 times or so, going back and forth, and she'd cheer me on. And it was really, I mean, the Park Service was amazing that way. I reassured them that I knew what I was doing, that I had the right stuff to, if I got myself in trouble, and that I wasn't going to be their rescue, and was going to play it safe, and they were, again, very supportive, and no trouble there at all. So that was great, and meeting everybody. I had a funny story from the inside of the, I was going through Phantom once, and there was a lady, I think had backpacked down and was camping for a couple of days, and she stopped me and she said, "Oh, I keep seeing these guys running through with this green shirt on," because I was wearing my club shirt, or RMR shirt. And I was wondering what you guys are doing, because I see you by yourself. And I'm like, kind of had to break it to her. Yeah, that's just me. Coming back and forth. I didn't have any other teammates out there. I actually did go out though. I did have a friend that came out. Her name's Julia German. And she's an amazing gal. And even though I was doing this unsupported, she ran the first lap with me up to the South Rim, and then did a loop around back to the Bright Angel and then back down.
Wow.
And then she ended up doing an untold amount of miles up on the top running. And then she went and did another lap. So she did 2 rim to rim to rims and like, I don't know, 100 other miles on the top. So she definitely deserves some credit for that. She's an amazing person.
Wow. The trail itself is pretty straightforward, but like I said, I've only done the rim to rim to rim one time, each time I've been out there. Was there any moments where you felt like you were a little bit lost, or any moments with like hallucinations or anything like that? Or since you were getting sleep, were you able to kind of keep your wits about you?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the trail's pretty, it's pretty hard to get lost on if you've done it a couple of times.
Right.
I'm careful to say that because I don't want to spread some idea that you don't need to know where you're going
right
in this environment, because somehow it happens every year.
Every
People
year,
get off the trail and they die.
Yeah.
So I know where you're going, but navigation's not much of an issue there. So didn't get off trail. Hallucinations almost always do in these sort of things. And I did have my common hallucination is that I see shadows and things at night, and I turn them into animals or people, and once your brain thinks it's looking at something, it's made up its mind at something, gets kind of freaky, and there'll be rhinoceroses and giraffes and stuff. And then for like one time I'm going up the side, and on the side of the cliff is this large gentleman, probably like 400 pounds, and he's hanging on the side of the cliff with his pants down, like peeing on the wall, but he's on the wall. And I'm looking at him and I'm like going, Jesus Christ, like what is this guy doing? What's he, and rescuing stuff. And I'm watching him for like a minute, and there's his ass hanging out there on the wall and stuff. And then all of a sudden I get a little closer, and I'm like, start thinking, no, this isn't possible, Paul. And I start looking a little closer, and then, of course it's just a bunch of rocks, on the wall that. But man, when you see those things, they're so real in your head that it's hard to convince you it's something else.
Oh, the mind plays some funny tricks when you get tired, man. I've seen all kinds of stuff out there. So
yeah, fortunately it wasn't one of those things where I was thinking there was a trail where there was a cliff, because
right.
As much as it's a wide trail and it's a good trail, but when you really comes down to it, about half the trail, if you step off it, you're gonna die. You as much as it's a perfect trail and not really scary, it's to most runners, you don't want to venture off of it. You don't want to be stumbling down that thing.
For sure. Yeah. How did you celebrate when you finished this thing? 5 laps, 226 miles. You're out there for 4 days and change. That's a long time, man.
Yeah.
58,000 feet. Did you just pass out? Did you celebrate? How did it go at the end?
I mean, when you do these kind of things, I know you've done a lot of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
To start with, just stopping is like immensely satisfying. It feels like a celebration by itself. But I went out on the rim with Julia and had a couple beers
Nice.
and ate dinner and just let it all sink in and um, it was just great stopping.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was my celebration, and got a good night's sleep and
Good.
headed back to Boulder the next day.
Was it emotional at all, or did you leave all your emotions out there? Like there's been races where sometimes I cross the finish line and I'm a blubbering mess, and other times I cross the finish line
Yeah,
and like I have
yeah.
no tears left because I sweat them all out for
Hmm.
the last however many hours.
Yeah, I the last lap was actually my favorite.
Okay.
It was great. I had a super positive attitude. I felt confident that I was going to do it, especially after I hit the south rim, and was just like, very cheerful with everybody. So when I got back, it was kind of like, yeah, again, it kind of felt like a victory lap,
Mm-hmm.
even though it would technically be my worst lap. But on the second and third lap, I I had periods where I was just really going through that struggle with what I got myself into, and the fact that my ego didn't want me to stop. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I had a couple emotional moments, and get a grip on it. But I'd gotten those past me more in the middle, as you can start seeing the end. It's just like on any 100-miler or whatever,
Yeah.
after you get that last aid station, it's like you start feeling good for the
Yeah.
most part. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I just felt great when I was done. Nothing emotional, but I
Yeah.
definitely had those moments in the middle.
Wow. So cool, Paul. Um, got anything else on the calendar this year?
Yeah, I'm actually because I signed up for this slow, walk, which I just finished. I decided I need to like work on my speed, so
Ah,
I've actually got 4 marathons
ah,
I'm running. 2 of them trail, 2 of them road, one of them's Boston. Um, and so I'm going to try to pick up the speed.
oh, nice.
So
Okay.
it's easy. I know a lot of older guys my age just start kind of going slower and slower, and I'm trying to avoid that. So
Good.
I'm not scared to lose it. So I can go through like long periods where I don't go fast, but I'm gonna start picking up the speed. And then just got a lot of adventures. We've got about these 80 days in the van planned this summer, and
Mm,
and there's just going to be a lot of running and exploring. So it's going to be a good year post COVID, I think, for everyone.
yeah.
So looking
Yeah.
forward to that.
Big time. How has your recovery been? Were you damn near crippled for a couple days, or how did it go?
I was kind of probably good the laps ended when they did, because after I sat for a bit, I got some pretty significant swelling in my feet.
Hmm.
They just kind of ballooned up,
Yep.
um, and it was a little awkward. But that all went away. I was retaining a lot of water. I probably peed off 20 pounds of water over the last a few days.
Hmm.
Um, Felt pretty good by yesterday. Like I said, I went out for that Green Mountain run, um, and thought, oh, I'm feeling pretty good. I can do this, and got halfway up that and realized that yeah, I'm not back yet. And these kind of things, it's for me at my age. I don't know how everyone else is, but I'm I'm usually not full on for a good month. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I can run right away, but I'm not going to be back to form
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it takes its toll.
it really does. And that's a smart way to look at it too. I mean, get out and move the body, do some active recovery, but yeah, no need to jump back in and kill yourself. It's going to take some time. That was a huge, huge effort. So And plus, just kick your feet up and eat some ice cream and enjoy, man. Just
well, thanks. Yeah. I definitely. I don't have any problems with spoiling myself. So,
good.
afterwards. So, yeah. Thank you for that.
Good to hear. Well, incredible, man. Incredible journey. Congrats. My hat's off to you. It's just almost unfathomable to me and most people. I mean, ultra runners can kind of picture it, I'm sure. Like, okay, yeah, super, super hard 4 or 5 days. But most people probably look at that like impossible. You know, most people can't hardly walk down to Phantom Ranch and back in a day. So, yeah.
But sometimes you got to put yourself out there, because everybody can do more than they think they can, and
Yep.
like, I'm sure that's the case with all the amazing people you've interviewed.
Yeah.
And like I say, you know, I'm just a regular dude. I'm no super athlete, and I'm not young, you know, so, you know, you can still get at it and do something.
You're still out there doing extraordinary things, man. So it's an inspiration to me and all kinds of other people. So I appreciate the talk, man. It's been fantastic. And like I said, hats off to you, and what an inspiration, and what a cool journey. So, and I don't think you're going to forget it anytime soon, man. You're going to remember this one forever.
No, I won't. It's great to have that little tiny piece of history in the canyon, and I really appreciate you, Adam, having me on. It's a great podcast. And I got to say, I listened to your episode with Logan, and having known Logan, that was brought some tears to my eyes, and that was just a really touching and really intimate look into who Logan was, which is just a wonderful soul, and
cool.
I really appreciated that.
Oh, thanks, man. Did you run with him much?
I did several runs with him, with the Rocky Mountain Runners.
Yep.
Felt he felt like a friend.
Yeah.
But I'm obviously not as close as you.
Yeah.
You guys were like inseparable for.
Oh yeah, we were buddies there for a long time. I couldn't get rid of the guy, but didn't want to either. You know, he was crazy, but he was a good guy. And but I appreciate the kind words, man. And thanks again, Paul. This has been fantastic, and look forward to seeing what's in your future, and following along. And next time you do something, if you decide to go 6 or 10 times in the Grand Canyon, let me know, man. We'll have you back on.
That's awesome. If I inspired one person, it's all worth it.
Oh yeah.
And thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, man. And have a great night. Stay in touch, man. Okay. We'll see you.
We will.
Okay.
Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.